Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining today's video where we dive into the incredible world of rare coins. And this time we are talking about one of the most legendary pieces in numismatic history, the 1944 wheat penny that has been reported to be valued at an astonishing $60 million because of its extraordinary errors and mistakes. A coin that might look ordinary at first glance to the untrained eye, but beneath its simple copper appearance lies a story of minting mishaps, production oddities, historical context, and the fascinating reasons collectors and investors place such unimaginable value on it. So settle in, because today we are going to break down the details, the possibilities, the varieties of mistakes, the misstrikes, the metal anomalies, the doubled elements, the transitional errors, and all of the little things that together have created a perfect storm of rarity and desirability that makes this 1944 wheat penny so valuable. And we'll do it in one massive deep dive that leaves no stone unturned, because when a penny that originally cost 1 cent to mint suddenly is worth $60 million on the collector's market, there has to be an incredible story to back it up. And that's exactly what we are about to unfold right now with you. So let's begin with the basic background. In 1944, the United States Mint was still deeply involved in World War II production efforts. The year prior, in 1943, they had famously changed the penny composition from copper to zinc-coated steel in order to conserve copper for the war, which resulted in the highly controversial steel cents that often rusted and caused confusion in circulation because they resembled dimes. And in 1944, the mint shifted back to copper using spent shell casings from the battlefields as a way to recycle materials. But as with any massive production effort involving billions of coins across several different mints including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, errors inevitably slipped through. And these errors sometimes created coins so rare that they become worth life-changing sums decades later, which is precisely where the 1944 wheat penny comes into the spotlight. For example, one of the most famous varieties is the 1944 steel penny, a transitional error where leftover steel planches from 1943 accidentally got struck with 1944 dies, making an ultra-rare piece that instantly became a holy grail for collectors. But beyond that, there are dozens of fascinating misstrikes, such as off-center errors, double die obverse varieties, repunched mint marks, lamination flaws, die cracks, clipped planches, and even strike-through errors where foreign objects got caught between the dies and left unique impressions. And each one of these adds layers of mystery and rarity to the 1944 wheat penny. Now imagine a coin that not only has a transitional error but also multiple layers of other mistakes, perhaps struck on the wrong planchet with misaligned dies, displaying doubling in the date and lettering, and surviving in pristine condition without being worn down in circulation. Suddenly you have the perfect storm of numismatic desirability, and when two or more wealthy collectors decide they must own it, the price climbs to unbelievable levels, even tens of millions of dollars, which is how we arrive at the mythical $60 million valuation for a particular 1944 wheat penny. So let's dig deeper into the specific errors that could cause such a meteoric price, starting with planchet errors, because the planchet, or blank disc of metal used to strike coins, plays a crucial role, and in 1944 most pennies were struck on bronze planches, a combination of copper, zinc, and tin. But there are reports of coins accidentally being struck on steel planches left over from 1943, as well as foreign coin planches due to the mints producing coins for other countries during the wartime period. Imagine a 1944 penny struck on a silver dime planchet, or on a thinner planchet. That results in an underweight coin. Collectors go crazy for these because they prove minting anomalies that should never exist. Now pair that with a striking error such as a dramatic off-center strike where Lincoln's portrait is shifted completely to one side, or a double strike where the coin received two impressions from the dies creating overlapping images, and suddenly the coin transforms from rare to nearly one of a kind. Then factor in die errors such as a double die obverse where the Date 1944 appears doubled, or the motto "Iron God We Trust" has visible shadows and doubling. These kinds of errors are highly sought after. For example, the 1955 doubled die penny is famous for selling for thousands of dollars. So if a 1944 penny with doubling exists on top of its planchette error, the rarity multiplies. And then you consider mint mark varieties such as repunched mint marks, where the D or S from Denver or San Francisco was punched more than once by hand before finalizing the die. And these variations make coins even more collectible. And if that same coin also has die cracks that show raised lines across Lincoln's portrait or reverse wheat ears, or lamination errors where the metal surface peels or flakes, it becomes a true numismatic anomaly, a perfect example of how error stacking leads to exponential value increases. And this is why one example of the 1944 wheat penny has reached the $60 million mark, because collectors perceive it not just as a coin but as a once-in-a-lifetime artifact of minting history, a physical embodiment of human error, wartime resourcefulness, and historical preservation. But let's also consider condition, because the grade of a coin is just as important as its error profile. Coins are graded on a scale from poor to mint state 70. And if this 1944 era penny survived in nearly flawless condition with full mint luster, sharp strike, and no significant wear, it would instantly command a premium. Collectors call this state uncirculated or mint state, and when combined with ultra-rare errors, it skyrockets the desirability, further pushing its auction price into tens of millions. And remember that collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying bragging rights, history, and exclusivity. Imagine owning a coin that nobody else on earth has, a coin that literally cannot be duplicated. That is why wealthy investors and museums bid astronomical sums, sometimes beyond what most people would think is reasonable, because in the world of numismatics, rarity plus demand equals price, and the 1944 wheat penny embodies this equation perfectly. And let's not forget the role of historical storytelling, because each rare coin tells a story that connects to its era, and the 1944 penny is tied directly to World War II, a time when every material was precious, every resource was directed toward the war effort, and yet mistakes at the mint still occurred, creating unintentional treasures. So when you hold a 1944 era penny, you're not just holding a piece of metal, you're holding a piece of history, a reminder of a time when the world was at war and yet life and commerce continued. And that emotional connection adds intangible value, increasing its desirability beyond the logical calculations of rarity. So as we move deeper into the story of this $60 million coin, we need to highlight examples of similar sales and discoveries that paved the way. For instance, the 1943 copper penny, another transitional era where a handful of pennies were struck on leftover bronze planches instead of steel. These coins have sold for over $1 million at auction, proving that transitional errors carry massive value. And if a 1943 copper penny is worth $1 million, then a 1944 steel penny with additional errors in pristine condition could realistically reach tens of millions under the right circumstances. And we've seen it before with ultra-rare coins like the 1933 double eagle gold coin, which sold for over $18 million. So, in a world where collectors are willing to pay nearly $20 million for a coin, the idea of a 1944 wheat penny hitting $60 million isn't entirely far-fetched, especially if it's unique. So let's break down the psychology of collectors and why they chase these rarities. Collectors are driven by passion, prestige, completion, and competition. They want to own pieces nobody else has. They want to complete sets. They want to preserve history, and sometimes they want to outbid their rivals. And when billionaires enter the arena, the sky is the limit, because for them spending $60 million on a coin is no different than buying a yacht or a rare painting. It's a status symbol, and the 1944 penny has reached that echelon because it checks every box: rarity, error complexity, historical significance, condition, and narrative. But we must also consider the possibilities of undiscovered varieties, because coins are constantly being re-examined by experts. Next, 1951 wheat penny USA coin. Today's video, where we explore the fascinating world of rare coins, and today's spotlight is on an incredible piece of American numismatic history, the 1951 wheat penny, a coin that normally might pass through people's hands unnoticed since it was minted in the tens of millions. Yet one specific variety of this penny has been reported as being valued at an astonishing $43 million due to its extraordinary errors and mistakes. And in this deep dive we will go through every detail, every possibility, every anomaly, and every numismatic curiosity that elevates a single cent from ordinary circulation into a life-changing treasure. And we'll unfold the reasons why collectors and investors place astronomical value on this little copper coin. So settle in, because this story is one of minting accidents, historical context, rare anomalies, and the incredible passion of collectors who drive prices higher and higher when a one-of-a-kind piece like this comes to market. So let's start at the beginning. The 1951 wheat penny was struck at three major mints: Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with a D mint mark, and San Francisco with an S mint mark, and combined production topped nearly 1 billion coins. So at first glance it would seem impossible that such a common coin could ever be worth even hundreds of dollars, let alone tens of millions. But rarity in numismatics isn't about mintage totals alone. It's about errors, varieties, conditions, and unique circumstances that create a one-of-a-kind coin. And the 1951 wheat penny has proven to be one of those legendary pieces where minting mistakes have transformed a common coin into a numismatic miracle. So what kinds of mistakes could make a 1951 penny worth $43 million? Well, first we have to consider transitional errors, because while the wheat penny was struck from bronze composed mostly of copper through 1958, there were instances in American coinage history where leftover planches from previous years or foreign coin planches accidentally got used. Imagine a 1951 penny struck on a leftover steel planchette from 1943, or struck on a dime planchette, or even on a foreign coin blank. These wrong planchette errors instantly create extreme rarity, and examples of pennies struck on dime planches have sold for thousands. So if a 1951 wheat penny was discovered on a silver planchette with a clear off-metal strike, its uniqueness would push values into unimaginable territory. And now consider the striking process itself, where dies stamp the design into the planchette. Sometimes things go wrong: double strikes, off-center strikes, broad strikes, or misaligned dies can produce dramatic visual errors. For example, an off-center strike where Lincoln's portrait is shifted far to the left or right, leaving a blank crescent of metal, or a double strike where the coin was struck twice, creating overlapping images. These instantly catch a collector's eye. But if one coin combines such errors with a transitional planchette anomaly, the rarity compounds, and then we add die errors into the equation, such as double die obverse varieties, where parts of the design show doubling due to misalignment during die creation. Think of the famous 1955 double die penny, which sells for thousands. So a 1951 double die showing clear doubling on the date or the motto "I in God we trust" would be highly collectible. And if paired with an off-metal strike, it becomes nearly priceless. Add in repunched mint marks where the mint mark D or S was stamped multiple times before being finalized, which is a known occurrence in 1951 issues, and suddenly you have another layer of rarity. And then we cannot forget die cracks, lamination errors, and strike-through anomalies where foreign material got struck into the coin. For instance, a piece of wire, cloth, or grease left impressions on the surface, creating one-of-a-kind pieces that are like minting fingerprints, each unique and impossible to replicate. And these all contribute to the overall mystique of the coin. But let's take it further, because condition matters as much as errors. A coin in poor condition may only bring modest value. But if this 1951 wheat penny with multiple errors survived in pristine mint state condition with full red luster, sharp details, and virtually no wear, Then it is catapulted into the highest echelons of desirability. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, and a mint state 67 or higher example with dramatic errors could fetch sums beyond imagination. And this is exactly how we reach the astonishing figure of $43 million, because the market for ultra-rare era coins is fueled not just by collectors but by wealthy investors and institutions seeking exclusivity and prestige. Imagine being able to say you own the only known 1951 penny with such a bizarre combination of errors. That kind of exclusivity drives bidding wars, and history has shown that when two or more determined collectors face off in an auction, prices can skyrocket well beyond initial estimates. And now let's consider the historical context of the 1951 wheat penny. By the early 1950s, the United States was transitioning from the post-war era into the economic boom of the mid-century, and coins of this period often reflected the growing efficiency of the US mint. But efficiency did not mean perfection. Mistakes still slipped through, and these mistakes became rarities decades later, making the 1951 penny a time capsule of American history, and when tied to the numismatic eras it becomes a story coin, and collectors value stories almost as much as they value the physical rarity, because each coin is not just metal but also a tangible piece of history. Now consider similar precedents. The 1943 copper penny, a transitional era, has sold for over $1 million, and the 1933 double eagle gold coin fetched over $18 million at auction. And more recently, unique pattern coins and ultra-high-grade rarities have sold for tens of millions. So the idea of a 1951 penny being worth $43 million may sound extreme, but it fits into a pattern of ultra-rare coins commanding astronomical values. And this particular coin likely combined wrong planchette, dramatic strike errors, doubled die features, and survival in pristine condition, creating a one-of-one masterpiece. And collectors value such uniqueness above all else. But let's also look at the psychological element. Collectors and investors who bid at these levels are not buying just a coin, they're buying status, history, and exclusivity. And for billionaires, spending $43 million on a penny is like buying a Van Gogh painting. It's about owning something no one else can ever have, and that drives the mystique of the 1951 penny further. And now let's go through more possibilities that could make it valuable. Imagine a 1951 wheat penny struck with a mule error, where the obverse and reverse dies from two different coin series were accidentally paired. So perhaps a Lincoln obverse with a Jefferson nickel reverse. This kind of minting blunder would create a unique coin instantly worth millions. Or imagine a 1951 penny struck on a gold planchette intended for a different denomination. The possibilities are endless, and each adds another layer to why this coin could be valued so astronomically. And yet beyond the technicalities, the beauty of such coins lies in their rarity and survival. Most error coins are quickly caught and melted down. So when one escapes and survives decades in circulation or tucked away in a collection, it becomes a miracle of survival, and that miracle is what collectors pay for. So the $43 million 1951 wheat penny represents not just a series of mint mistakes but also incredible luck, timing, and preservation. And when you add all of this together, you understand why this humble penny can sit atop the numismatic world as one of its greatest treasures, and it also inspires everyday people to check their change, to go through jars of old pennies, to inherit collections and look closely, because treasures are still out there, and the dream of finding one is alive and real, and that dream fuels the entire hobby. So as we bring this story together, remember that the 1951 wheat penny in its rare era form is not just a coin, it's a perfect storm of anomalies, history, condition, and collector demand, and that is what propels it to a jaw-dropping $43 million valuation, making it one of the most fascinating tales in numismatic history. And perhaps somewhere out there another such coin is still waiting to be discovered, hidden in plain sight, ready to change someone's life forever. So keep searching, keep looking closely, because the next legendary penny could be sitting in your pocket right now. Last 1958 D Wheat Penny USA coin. Today's video where we dive into one of the most fascinating and jaw-dropping stories in the world of rare coins. And today we are talking about a legendary coin that has captivated collectors, historians, and investors alike. The 1958 D Wheat Penny. A coin that most people would glance at and assume is just another common cent from mid-20th century America. Yet a specific example of this coin has been valued at an astounding $50 million because of its errors, mistakes, and anomalies that make it so incredibly rare and desirable. And in this ultra-deep dive we are going to explore every detail, every type of error, every possibility of how such a coin could exist, and why this single cent, struck in Denver in 1958, at the tail end of the Wheat Penny series before the transition to the Lincoln Memorial Reverse in 1959, could climb into the ranks of the most valuable coins ever, and will be doing it in one massive continuous exploration without leaving anything out, because when a coin worth 1 cent ends up commanding $50 million, you know there has to be a combination of history, rarity, minting mishaps, collector psychology, and sheer uniqueness at play. So let's set the stage. The 1958 Wheat Penny was the last year of the iconic wheat ears design on the reverse, a design that had been used since 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and by 1959 the reverse would change to the Lincoln Memorial design, making the 1958 issue historically significant. As a farewell year, and at the Denver Mint, which produced the 1958 D pennies, tens of millions were struck, so naturally one would assume they are common, and in general they are. But as with any massive production effort, errors and mistakes slip through, and some of these errors can be so rare that they create a one-of-a-kind coin, and in numismatics, one-of-a-kind equals priceless. So what kind of errors could elevate a 1958 D penny into a $50 million superstar? Let's start with the most famous kind of error, the doubled die, because 1958 already has one of the most famous doubled die pennies, the 1958 doubled die obverse, where the lettering Liberty and I in God We Trust show dramatic doubling, and examples of this variety are so rare that only a few are known to exist, and they are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars even in circulated condition. Now imagine a 1958 D penny with an even more dramatic doubled die, or a doubled die combined with other minting errors. Instantly, we are talking about a coin that jumps into an entirely new realm of value. And then consider transitional errors, because in 1959 the design changed. So if by some mistake a Denver Mint coin was struck with a prototype reverse die meant for the Lincoln Memorial design, it would create a mule error, a coin with mismatched obverse and reverse designs, and mule errors are among the rarest and most valuable of all. Now imagine that kind of mule error surviving in pristine condition, and suddenly, you can see why collectors might bid astronomical sums for it. But that's only the beginning, because planchette errors are another major factor, the planchette being the blank disc of metal that gets struck with the design, and if the wrong planchette was used, say a silver dime planchette or a leftover foreign coin planchette, then the coin instantly becomes extremely rare, and in some cases pennies have been struck on planchets intended for dimes, nickels, or even experimental compositions, and when authenticated these coins are considered national treasures in numismatics. And now think about combining that with a doubled die or off-center strike. The rarity multiplies exponentially, and that's what makes this particular 1958 D Wheat Penny so unbelievable, because it reportedly contains not just one but multiple errors layered together, making it essentially unique. But let's also break down striking errors, because during the minting process the dies can strike the coin off-center, misaligned, or even multiple times, creating overlapping impressions, double strikes, or dramatic off-center images where part of the design is missing. These are instantly noticeable and prized by collectors, and when combined with other errors they become almost priceless. Add to that mint mark anomalies like repunched mint marks, which were common in the 1950s since mint marks were added to dies by hand, sometimes leading to visible doubling or tripling of the D mark, and such varieties are catalogued and collected, making even small differences highly desirable. And then you have die cracks, lamination flaws, clipped planches, and strike-through errors where foreign materials such as grease, thread, or wire got struck into the coin's surface. Each of these errors makes the coin a unique artifact of the minting process, and in the case of this $50 million 1958 D penny, it is believed that multiple such mistakes occurred together, making it the ultimate numismatic anomaly. But condition also plays a critical role, because a coin in poor condition might only fetch a fraction of its potential value. But if this penny survived in mint state, with full red luster, sharp strike, and minimal marks, it would be at the top of the grading scale, perhaps MS67 or higher, and coins in such condition are already rare, but when combined with dramatic errors, they become holy grails of the coin world. So condition, error rarity, and historical significance all intersect here to create the perfect storm, and that perfect storm is why this penny has reached a valuation of $50 million. But let's also consider the psychology of collectors, because value isn't determined just by rarity, it's also determined by demand, and when multiple wealthy collectors, investors, or even institutions decide they must own the same unique coin, the price climbs beyond logic. We've seen this in the art world where paintings sell for hundreds of millions, and in numismatics we've seen coins like the 1933 St. Gordon's double eagle sell for over $18 million, or the 1794 flowing hair dollar bring over $10 million. So the idea of a penny reaching $50 million isn't far-fetched when the right combination of uniqueness, condition, and buyer demand exists, and this is exactly the case here. But let's go further into possibilities, because the 1958 D penny was struck during a transitional period, and that opens the door to potential mule errors where the obverse of a Lincoln wheat penny was struck with the reverse of a 1959 memorial cent. If even a single such coin exists, it would be priceless, and numismatic history would be rewritten. And this legendary $50 million penny may very well be such a mule, or perhaps a wrong planchette error combined with doubling, off-center strike, and repunched mint mark. A stacking of errors so rare it cannot be duplicated. And that's what makes this story so captivating, because in the world of coin collecting, it's the stacking of multiple anomalies into one coin that transforms rarity into uniqueness, and uniqueness into astronomical value. But beyond technical errors, the historical and emotional significance of this coin also matters. 1958 was the end of an era for the wheat design, a design beloved by collectors for its simplicity and history, and owning the rarest 1958 D wheat penny is like owning the final and ultimate symbol of that entire series, a once-in-a-lifetime piece that connects collectors to a half-century of American history, and that symbolism adds intangible value, increasing the desirability of the coin. And when wealthy collectors chase something both tangible and symbolic, the sky is the limit for its price. And now let's think about survival, because most era coins were caught and destroyed at the mint, or worn down in circulation. So for one to survive in gem condition is a miracle in itself, and that miracle of survival adds another layer of allure. So the 1958 D wheat penny valued at $50 million is not just about errors, it's also about luck, history, symbolism, and collector psychology. And when you weave all those elements together, you understand why this humble 1-cent piece has become a global numismatic legend. And it also serves as inspiration to everyday people, because stories like this remind us that treasures could still be out there, hiding in coin jars, old collections, or forgotten boxes in attics, waiting to be discovered. And maybe someone right now is holding a penny worth millions without even realizing it. And that dream of discovery is what fuels the passion of the hobby, and why rare coins continue to command attention in headlines and auction houses.